Okay. Good evening, everybody. Derek and Matt, thank you so much for joining me tonight. This is one of our town hall meetings. We have town hall meetings every month. They alternate between our diversity, equity, and inclusion town hall meetings and our strategic plan meetings, both of which are items that we want to make sure that we provide interaction with the community, or at least recorded interaction for for the community to follow up on later. So tonight's meeting with the strategic plan, we will be going through essentially what is the final wording of the document, and we can go through as fast or as slow as you'd like for me to go, and then talk about the next steps with the document and with the funding of the actions and the metrics that are part of the document. And then if people have any questions at the end, then we'll have questions. So let's go ahead and get started. Let me make sure that I have the document up so I can share my screen. Okay. Share screen. Okay. All right. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, I got it. Thanks.
Okay, great. So as we were developing our strategic plan, we came up with 4 priorities. You'll see the priorities listed in white as we move through the document. The priorities are student learning and belonging. They are connections, employee success, and operations. And so within student belonging and learning, or learning and belonging, the goal for this is to really emphasize that those two things are inextricably together. You can't really have academic learning without belonging. You have to be able to feel like you are part of the school, you're part of the classroom as you move through the learning environment of the school bus, the cafeteria, recess, any one of those places. You must feel like you're part of the system in order for you to continue to have success academically. And the same thing, if you are being successful in your academics, you're understanding what's taking place in the classroom, you're able to read, you're able to be successful in math, science, and social studies, you're going to have much more confidence that you're going to be able to build those connections, whether it's with teachers or friends or other people who are part of the school. And so they are inextricably tied together. So each plan, or each part of the plan, each priority has a priority statement, and they usually have multiple objectives to go with it. So what we're going to be focusing on today really is talking a little bit about the objectives, then the actions and the metrics that go along with them. And so what I think we can do is, as you scroll, since you have the link, you have the ability to kind of scroll through the document itself. What I'd like to do is maybe talk about 1 or 2 actions, as opposed to just going through line by line by line. But if there's one that you see that is really, really interesting to you, do not hesitate for me to stop and make sure that we have the ability to chat about that particular action, that particular objective. So within priority 1 of student learning and belonging, I think it's really important for us, and I'm looking at action 113, which is to honor and act upon the perspectives of students and everyone that we serve. So as a school district, and as schools, and as teachers and administrators, we have to make sure that not only are we bringing the curriculum that the state is expecting us to bring, but also to make sure that we are incorporating the perspectives of the students that we serve, and even expanding the opportunities for curriculum and learning opportunities. And so with that being the case, so you'll see that under the metric is making sure that we are increasing the satisfaction of our students and our family members, But then also, it's not just increasing it through kind of the surveys that we started utilizing this year from Panorama, but it's also making sure that when we are meeting with students, learning from students, and getting their feedback, that we're using a standardized, I guess, framework that is used across the country. And in this case, it's the CASEL standards or the CASEL competencies to make sure that not only are students learning academically, but they're growing as students themselves, with these kind of executive functioning skills like self-awareness, self-direction, self-management, responsible decision making, and relationship skills. These are items that not only are part of the CASEL standards, but they're also part of our portrait of a graduate. And so these are things that students will not only be um, taught over the course of their experience within CVSD, but they're also being measured along the way, so that way we can see if we are actually achieving the goals of teaching these particular competencies. Any thoughts on this first one, or um, any of the other ones from the first objective?
It's clear. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So objective 1.2. So this is student again. This is another student belonging. We'll get to student learning once we get to objective 3. Is so during my first year, we conducted an equity audit. We recruited a firm out of Boston to come and give us kind of an external view of how we were doing as a district. And they really came up with 4 things. So one was making sure that we were actually using data in a way where we're looking at every single student, as opposed to just looking at all of our students in the aggregate. So that was the first thing. The second thing was making sure that we are attempting and are successful in recruiting, hiring, retaining, and developing staff who are either teachers of color, or who have an incredible amount of experience working with students of color, so that we have that ability to do that. The other thing is making sure that we are offering a curriculum that is going to be inclusive of many of our students. And then finally, making sure that we are actually getting feedback from students, teachers, community members, and not just kind of creating things from on high. And so our goal within objective 1.2 is to make sure that we're implementing that equity audit framework and continuing to learn from it. And so that's the piece that I think has been very, very important and kind of the original document that guided us through the strategic plan, making sure that we're paying very close attention to that. As you'll see on one of the next steps that we would talk about today is the appendices. So part of the equity audit was to make sure that we have a common definition of what we mean when we say equity, as well as a lot of other terms. So it's almost like a glossary, or some other, like a frequently asked questions. So that's going to be an appendix to our strategic plan, so that when people see those terms within our strategic plan, they'll know what we mean. Objective 1.3. So within student learning, we want to make sure, so I like the way this one is written. So engage students in authentic, meaningful, empowering learning experiences. So within metric 1.1311, where we're talking about increased growth rates. So it's not only just making sure that students are doing well on the test from the objective measure from the test's point of view, but also if we have students who are 3 grade levels behind, 2 grade levels behind, that we're providing them with not only 1 year's growth over the course of a year, but maybe 1.5, 2, or 2 years, because the goal, if we only increase their proficiency by 1 year, they're still behind 2 or 3 years of grade levels. So we have to make sure that when we're providing interventions or we're providing other things for students um, to catch up, that we're incorporating it uh, or we're planning for them to grow faster than other students, because they have a lot more to catch up. And this is objective 4. This is, I think, one of the things that we've heard the most of, or that even before the strategic plan was written, it's something that teachers are very cognizant of. We have to make sure that we have as we're developing our teachers um, to serve our students, that we're developing them in a way that is engaging, that is actually growing them as educators. It's not okay, so here's a new math curriculum, go learn it yourself. It's more of, here's a curriculum. What are ways that we can work together so that we can expand your knowledge of it, so that way, when you're teaching it to the students are having as much fun, they're as engaged, they feel like they're learning. It's not just, so here it is. And so that's number one. Number two is, not only are we trying to grow our teachers as academicians, as educators, but we also have to grow them in a way to where they recognize that we have to serve all of our students, including those in the margins. So, Matt, as you are very aware, in Shelburne, we have many, many students who are refugees that are coming to live in our hotels, and they're now coming to our schools. That is something that is not, it's, while it is, it happens over the course of time, but now it seems like there's a greater influx. So that means that our teachers are, more and more teachers are affected. So we want to make sure that if any of those newly arrived students get into any of our classrooms, our teachers are prepared and ready to serve those students. And so that goes the same for students from other historically marginalized populations as well. Okay, I've spoken a lot, so I'm going to take a break for a second. Uh, I guess, any thoughts, either Derek or Matt, on this first priority of student learning and belonging? And if not, if there's something like, is that something we can even talk about personal experience that you had, like when you were a learner in grade school or in college, about why it was important for you to have those things?
It looks great. And I see that in what I know about Shelburne Community School from the distance between my office and there. Um, I I thought this was a budget work session.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So this is all good to learn, but I had
Right.
finance wheels turning as you got into it. So what I will I'll continue to be curious about and look for is how you connect these metrics and the actions to the financial decisions that you make. I frequently say to my board and team that the budget is the reflection of our values, and we invest in the things that we think are important. So I should be able to connect changes in the budget to these things and be able to see, here's how we're taking action on them.
Thank you for saying that. I think you stole my whole presentation, but but that's okay. But you're right. The budget of any organization is a reflection upon the organization's values. And so it's important, if we are saying that this is what is valuable to us, and I'm pointing at my screen, not at, but if we're saying that this is important to us, then we need to make sure that we are funding it in a way that the community knows that that's what's important to us. And so if that means teachers, if that means resources, if that means data, warehouses and other things like that, and recruiting teachers from across the country or the United States territories or other parts of the world in order for us to be fully staffed, then by all means, then we have to spend the money in order to do that.
Mm-hmm. Or
and so
conversely, if we're having to trim funding, that we reduce in the things that are not strategic and
correct.
try to protect that core.
Right. And I think the biggest thing that is important to me is that as a school district and as a town, we are systems that don't just exist in the now, they exist over time. And so if you have a student who's coming in as a kindergartner, we have to make sure that every decision that we are making for that student and to the system over the 13 years that they're with us puts that kindergartner in a progressively better position every year. So not only are they tied, not only are they getting stronger within the system, with our system, but we're getting them ready for that college, career, life goal or outcome, 13, 14 years from now. And so it's important it's in Vermont with local control, it's really sometimes difficult to recognize that we have to work together to plan for 13 years worth of work.
Mm-hmm.
And with you, with growth, I mean, that growth can be 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, even on down the roads that you have to be aware of.
Thank you.
No, my pleasure. So the next three we can do fairly quickly. So priority 2 is connections. And so connections, if you think about it in the way that it's communications, it's relationships, it's making sure that we aren't existing solely by ourselves and trying to solve the world's problems, or it's important for us to listen to our community, listen to our town partners, listen to the state, listen to business organizations that are within our boundaries. If there's a way for us to make sure that these relationships that we develop are going to help our students or help our teachers or help our district in the long run, we need to avail ourselves to those. And so within this one, I guess I'd like to talk about objective. Well, I probably want to talk about 2 of them. So we want to make sure that we are availing ourselves of opportunities with whether maybe the nonprofits or other businesses or even other organizations within our bounds or within the Champlain Valley area, where we can develop ways to serve our students. So part of the expectations of the school district from the state is something called flexible pathways. So from 7th grade on, schools and students are supposed to be working on creating personalized learning opportunities for students. And we're supposed to document them so that way we can show that students have different ways of having authentic experiences where they can learn more about what they're interested in and what they're going to be doing in the future. And so while we do have we have 2 relationships with Essex Tech and Burlington Tech. That is one way, but even if our students do go there, it's important for us to find ways to find them internships, apprenticeships, or other jobs that they might be able to do. So we're working on building our relationships with partners in order to continue to strengthen that. The other piece is as we are growing our footprint in the community, we have to find ways to learn from family members and caregivers who aren't typically available via email newsletters or phone calls. We have to do our best as a district to find other venues in which to reach out to families. So if that means that we need to start doing more home visits, if we need to set up in front of Lampman's in Heinsberg or in front of Spear Store in Charlotte or other places, we have to find ways to reach out to the community, much like we did when we were collecting feedback for the strategic plan. But we have to be willing to do those things. Derek, one of the things that I do when the weather gets better and there are farmers markets in Shelburne and in Williston, I will have a table at least once a month starting in June and through September, where I just set up a table and just, hey, parents walking by, I've got little swag that I give out to kids and to families from Champlain Valley, and let's just talk. And usually they're asking questions about the budget. They're talking about, what they like about the schools, but it's just been a really great way to meet a lot of people who are part of it, who have children in the district. So, okay, the next one. Our third priority is employee success, and so this is our making sure that we are not just taking care of our students, but we also recognize that. Oh, I guess I need to share my screen again. But it's making sure that we are working with our teachers so that they can learn how to best serve the students that are in their classroom or that are in their school. And so we have been really fortunate that teachers see Champlain Valley as a place to come work for all or most of their career. And so, but as teachers are starting to retire and younger generations of teachers aren't staying as long in the profession as Generation X and baby boom generations, then we have to find ways to encourage them to stay with us, and so that means we need to recruit, hire, develop, and retain our teachers in a way where they feel like they're part of the district. And so that goes beyond just making sure that we are paying them well, but there's also an aspect of well-being. There's also a respect of advancement, and making sure that we are not just providing those things, but actually monitoring them as well. And so that's that is something that we can no longer take for granted that teachers are going to stay with us for a really, really long time. Okay.
Thank you, sir. That's all very helpful. I'll keep in touch. I got to get over to another meeting.
All right. Thanks, Matt.
Take care.
Okay. All right. And the last one.
Yeah, I'd be interested in hearing the last one, and then just a couple minutes to, kind of just hear about your experience.
Next steps?
Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So the last one is operations. And so this is basically everything else. So this is facilities, this is transportation, this is food service, this is our financial management of things, information technology. And so this kind of gives us metrics that we want to be able to, make sure that we're not just leaving everything that's seen as outside of the classroom behind. We want the community to know that we're moving things forward. So I think the biggest thing that I want to mention is especially if your child is in Charlotte, is that we are come March, after our budget season, we are putting together a facilities committee that has representation from inside the buildings of all of our buildings, as well as from all of our towns. Many of our buildings are quite old. Many of them need some repairs. They're in pretty good shape in comparison to other schools around the state. But there are things that are very much needed. So, with the example of Charlotte, we've been doing a lot of work there over the last couple of years, and then we had a 3-step plan with a bond that we passed in 2022. But some of the work when the pandemic hit became very difficult to continue at the cost of what it was originally bid out for. So now we're having to do a supplementary bond in order to cover some of the things in Charlotte, as well as some of the other expenses from around the district. But knowing that, one of the other things we did in my first year as well is we conducted a demographic study, so we could see how many students, if we were going to grow, or if we were going to reduce over a 10-year period. So during these first few years, and the model has held true, is that we've gone down a little bit, but around year 4, it has us going back up to gaining probably several hundred students. So we need to make sure that our facilities not only are modernized, but they're also capable of accepting those, several hundred additional students. Because if we wait until the 10th year to do the buildings, it's going to be not only much more expensive, but it's also going to be too late to provide those new buildings when we actually need them.
Yeah.
And that's kind of that is the strategic plan in a nutshell. And let's see. So, as I mentioned, we're one of the major appendices that we're going to have is our equity definitions that were created over the last year in alignment with the equity audit. I mentioned to you, Derek, that when we first came on, that our goal is to have a document that is both posted and printed, available by the time our budget, I guess, season really kind of kicks off, and our board is going to the community to seek support for the passing of the budget. But the one thing that we are working on now, since it's a 5-year plan, the different committees that represented each of the priorities are getting together so that they can say, this particular action will be done by year 2. This particular action will be done by year 4. So that way, when we get it out to the community, not only will we have kind of the clock ticking on making sure that we're doing this, but the community will also see kind of the countdown for that clock as well. And so it will help us with accountability in the long run if we say that we're going to be doing these things, because if we get to like year 4 and it was something that should have been done in year 4, we can say, all right, let's take stock of it, and what do we need to do in order for it to be finished, or what do we need to do to probably say we're going to move it to year 5, and we just let the board and the community know that that's what we're planning on doing. But we have to show that we've made a good faith effort in order to implement many, if not all, of these actions and metrics.
Yeah, makes sense.
So I guess, what questions do you have?
Yeah, no, I don't. None so much right now. I just saw the email come on through and thought it would be interesting to join and see like kind of the priorities of the district. I mean, my daughter will stay up there through high school, and so I'm just trying to learn more. I've spent quite some time up there this year. But yeah, no questions right now. 100% in listening mode, and I appreciate you continuing this while I was, with being the audience member. So I won't take more of your time, but thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Hi. Well, thank you so much for coming out, and please feel free to join us for any of our other town meetings, or if you come up this summer to visit, make sure that you try to stop by one of the farmers markets so that way
Yeah,
we can meet
absolutely.
in person. Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Have a great night.
You too.